I talk to a lot of you guys on, various topics, and we get pretty heavy and deep. And, I have a lot of respect for everybody on this phone. We all have a common love for one another. We have a common love for the University of Tennessee. And I think we all want to make a positive impact on everything that's going on in the world right now. And so I just wanted to get a whole bunch of different perspectives on the events that are going on right now, just so we could maybe find a solution, but just offer that perspective that we all think differently, but we can all come together. I don't want to claim to be the Vols for everybody, but I think we do represent a pretty diverse group of opinions and backgrounds, on this call. So with that, I'll just throw it out there and get your reactions on when you first saw the George Floyd videos. What were your initial thoughts?
I was pretty disgusted. I felt terribly, actually, especially seeing it. And I think that cops should go to jail for a long time.
Yeah, I had a range of emotions, Aaron. It was, I got extremely emotional. And I watched it a couple times, and then I watched it with my daughter because she saw me getting emotional, right? And it just had a really profound effect on me, and it still bothers me because I can't watch the video again. I just can't, because it's just, I don't know, I just can't watch it anymore. But then after a day or so, the anger kind of set in, right? The anger set in. And then the hopelessness after a couple more days when, before he was arrested. It's just been tough. It's just been a tough deal to watch and see how everything has unfolded over the last week.
I think one of the things that gets lost in this, maybe not lost, but something I keep thinking about is there's so many things on TV and on the internet, and a lot of people don't agree on every single thing, but I think almost everybody agrees on how they felt when they saw that. Regardless of who they vote for, or if their families in the police, or if their families. I can't imagine anybody, at least that I know, that didn't feel, like that was murder. I understand there's cops have. There's a lot of scenarios, but I mean, in that scenario, there's no defense. Anybody could try to say, even if they were just trying to come up with one. And even my buddy who was a highway patrol was like, I mean, he knew exactly what he was doing. I mean, you have struggles in their job, and he always tries to use communication in different ways of dealing with people. Where it doesn't escalate. I think the main thing I wanted to say in that is, I think everybody was just disgusted and horrified and pissed off. And, I mean, I'm not going to say what should or shouldn't happen to that guy, but, he should get whatever someone else gets that, does that to a human being, whether they're in uniform or not.
It gives the cops a bad name. I mean, it's unfortunate because there are a lot of the majority of the cops are good people, but things like that are not good.
Mine was a little bit like Trey's. As a lawyer, you're always trying to look at the other side of it and consider both sides and both angles. And then as I watched it, I realized it's a little bit like the young man that got killed by the two guys in the pickup truck, was that last week or the week before, where actually it was a while ago, it's just come to light now. You quickly realize there is no other side to this. It's completely indefensible. There's no other side. These guys need to be locked up and thrown away the key forever, and at that point, once you realize, at least once I did, I quickly became just sick and disgusted about the whole thing, because really two things kind of kept up in my mind. And Aaron, I think that's why I texted you. I mean, the first question I have in my mind is, why does this keep happening? And what can we do as a society to stop this from happening, right? The second thing in my mind is and and I'm not trying to embarrass you guys because you're all on the call, but I mean, honestly, you're the two guys that I think of the most. If I'm either Aaron or Joey, right, and I'm a dad, and I'm raising kids in society today that are black, what do I tell them, right? Because with my own son who's 19 and just wrapped up his freshman year, I mean, there's moments that he's had that I looked at and gone, man, what that was pretty close. That was pretty rough. If you'd have been black, what would have happened? And it's a shame that in society today we have to look at that way. So that was the first thing I thought of. One of the first things I thought of you and Joey, and I thought, how in the world do these guys, what do they tell their kids? Because it's sickening, and I'm still sickened by it, and I can't get my mind around it. So that's why I texted you yesterday.
I didn't watch the video in its entirety. I couldn't watch more than 5 seconds of it just because I knew it was another situation of Tamir Rice or Sandra Bland or Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin, and I knew the end of the story, and so I just couldn't watch it. But I asked myself questions like, okay, is this going to be the time where we have our white brothers and sisters lock arms with us? Because that's what it's going to take. For so long, it's kind of been one side speaking out, one side protesting, one side, standing up and speaking out, and there's been the other side telling them, but what about this? What about that? What about Chicago? What about black on black? And then you get to a point where it's so frustrating where you just like, well, forget it. Just won't say anything. So now here's a video. Where police officers committed a crime in cold blood. My mom was a police officer. Was a police officer in the Air Force. That's how my mom and dad met. And so, I see that side of law enforcement. But at the same time, I'm a young black man. And I'll be honest, I cried most of today. I haven't posted anything on social media because I don't have the words. I'm tired of talking. I just want some action. So for a guy that talks 15 hours a day about sports and talks all day, I didn't have the words, but I didn't have much to say. I'm just really disgusted and sad, and I'm thankful that Coach Fulmer and Pruitt and our leadership put out that statement today. That was good. And Tennessee has Tennessee has an opportunity to really set the standard and kind of grab this thing by the horns. Condon was the first black quarterback in the SEC. Years and years and years ago. So, we have that history, but I'm just, again, disgusted, sad, pissed off, all the emotions you can name off. That's me.
Yeah, I think I echo that. Something that Brad said, talking about his son who was a freshman, at UT. I immediately thought about my two boys driving in the suburbs and being pulled over, and the things that I've told them in the past. We have to have a conversation of keep your hands on the steering wheel, put your driver's license, your insurance card, and your registration in the visor, ask for permission to reach for it. Like, those are conversations that we have to have. And I've had white friends that I consider family tell me that I'm teaching systemic racism towards policemen, when that same friend that I have that I consider family called me yesterday crying, saying, man, I never knew what you were talking about when you were instructing your kids how to deal with police. I mean, I go as far as telling my my two sons, and I have 3, but only 2 of them drive. Hey, make sure you pronounce correct English and yes sir, no sir, just to try to get out of the situation, man. I talking to Jay Graham yesterday, and we were talking about this, who was like a little brother to me, and he talks about recruiting and how many times he's been pulled over for no reason. And it's like a slot machine for us sometimes. You're hoping you get a good cop. I mean, how many people have to go out when they're driving, traveling? I travel in sales. Joey travel in sales. How many times do you have to worry about, you're in a suit and tie, and you're worried about getting a good cop if you're pulled over for no reason, let alone if you're pulled over, for a reason. So when I saw the video, all that went through my mind, and I just, Chase was traveling back to Fayetteville to move out, and he was on the expressway, man. I just got on my knees and prayed that if something happened, that the right person would pull him over. Because like my little brother Swain, my stepfather was a Detroit detective for 30 years. My brother is a DEA agent in Detroit. So I know there are good cops, just like there are bad cops. There's bad lawyers. There's good lawyers, bad doctors, good doctors. So that's just the way I approach the world. But, man, you talk about just being punched in the face. That's how I felt when I saw that video. And I immediately went to my young men and the boys that I have to answer to. And we have to have that very serious conversation. Here's the way you act when you encounter police. And it's sad that it's that way, but, that's our reality. And that's been that's been our reality. And the last thing that I'll say is sometimes I think, we're all successful. We've overcome a lot and we've accomplished a lot. But at the end of the day, the color of our skin is the first thing that somebody sees. And then when they see Jason Swain, Joey Kent, Aaron Hayden, you get a different reaction because a lot of times, whether we want to admit it or not, and I've benefited from it as an athlete, we get a pass, as an athlete, and especially an athlete at Tennessee with a pretty good standing or, people respect, who you are, you're articulate, you hadn't caused a lot of problems. Well, I caused some problems early on, but we've grown and matured. That's gotten you out of some things, and I've taken advantage of that. But at the same time, when that cop first pulls me over, they're looking to smell marijuana. They're looking to see if I have a gun in the car or something like that. And that's just the things that we deal with. So, I thank you guys for your perspective there. And then I'll throw out one more question. How do you feel looking at the riots and the protesting? And I think it's two different things. That's just me, but I'll just throw that out to you guys, especially Brad, you're in Nashville right now. And that was my heart ached for Nashville, Joey. To me, it's the best city, one of the best cities, but it's probably the melting pot of Tennessee. But to see what's happening there.
Aaron, I was up most of the night reading Twitter, watching the news, rewinding, just trying to make sense of that. And I think you're right. It was two different things. The day started out with the protest that, frankly, any of us should have gone to. It was protesting the death, and that was it was all, I think, the right way done. The problem is then after that it devolved into something else, and I think you got some people. I think even late last night, as far as I could tell, you had some folks that were protesting for legitimate reasons. Even late into the night, and then you had some folks that were just taking advantage of the opportunity to go out and do harm to the community. And you're talking about the thing that got me was our courthouse was really one of the major scenes of the civil rights movement back in the 60s. And there's a huge plaque on it devoted to the civil rights movement and how people went there and chanted and cheered and protested in a peaceful way. And then to see people intentionally going up and breaking windows and starting fires. And then when honestly, then you look at it and a lot of them were white, you're sitting there going, oh my gosh. And so I don't know. There's a lot going on. It's a complicated issue, but I think in my mind, I've separated the two, and I think we've got a lot of people in this country that frankly just want to take advantage of chaos and try to stir further divisions. And I got that. That's what they're doing. But in my mind, it's two different things from what we're dealing with.
I agree, Brad. You look at Nashville and you saw the piece of protesting initially during the day, and then you saw something different at night. You've been seeing this across the country, though. You hear stories of different entities that might come into a town and take advantage of the situation, right? And that could have happened here, could have happened a lot of different places. But we know Nashville is a good place, right? Good people. Obviously, people are frustrated. You cannot blame some people for venting, right? But there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. I don't condone the looting. I don't condone all the violence and all the destruction. I don't condone that. But I do condone standing up for your rights and standing up for whatever you believe in and for your voice to be heard, right? So it's a complicated, hard question, in my opinion. I don't know the answer the right way. You look at peaceful protesting. what does that do? You know, where has that gotten us as a black race or any type of peaceful protest? What does that actually do versus what is going on in this country now? The country is standing at attention right now. Good, bad, ugly, whatever is happening, this has the country's attention. It's going to have the country's attention for a long time, and hopefully it'll evoke change.
You know, Joey, I saw two things last night actually this morning that really kind of made me restore my faith in humanity. One of them was and I don't know exactly what it was. It was something I saw on Twitter, Aaron. It was this black guy that was our age, and he was getting up in the face of three young white kids that were either trying to start a fire or something like that. Joey, I don't know if you saw that or not.
I saw that. I did see it, bro.
It was unbelievable. I mean, he was chewing them out like a coach would, and it was like, don't you dare do this because this is not what we're about. This is not what this protest is about. So that was one thing that I thought, okay, I've kind of got my faith restored in humanity a little bit. And then this morning, seeing a guy that I know downtown, he'd gone to Home Depot and he loaded up with a bunch of graffiti removal stuff and took his power washer and he went downtown. He just said, this is not the Nashville that I know. I was born and raised here. I live here. I love the city. And his power washer, and he was washing off the side of Bridgestone Arena. And he was a white guy about our age. And he was joined by this black lady. He was over just scrubbing like crazy. And he said, anybody wants to come down, bring your power washer, come on. And it made me realize that despite what you saw last night, that's not Nashville. What you saw today with him and her working on the building, and what you saw last night with the guy jumping on the three white kids saying, don't you do this, that's Nashville to me. So that's sort of how I'm able to sleep at night, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, it really is two different things. I think there's got to be something done, and I understand. I come from a area where, you know, my teachers were black, my principal was black. You know, everybody that I interacted with was black until Bill Fulmer walked into my high school and recruited me. Kind of the first time I've ever had a relationship, you know, with a white person, and so I come from a different perspective to where I live now versus where I come from. And I just throw this out there, and this is not me saying anything is right. I'm with George. I understand that it's wrong to steal. But if you think about the majority of young African-American males, they have one-parent household, maybe raised by an aunt, grandmother, or something like that. There may not be a male in the home. And I'm not saying absolute, so I'm just giving a background of where I come from. And you're on welfare, you're undereducated, you have no options, and the police brutalize you or assume the worst in everything that you do, and you never have a voice. And then you get into a mob or a crowd, and you have the opportunity to let all that emotion that you've been suffering with 14, 15 years, you know, into your teenage, and nobody's telling you that's wrong. People are telling you, you know, the man is against you, or police hate you, and the world hates you, and you get an opportunity to express yourself. We got to do that at Tennessee, playing football. We got to express ourselves. We got to express ourselves with one another. We had some real men to show us the right way. The Kippy Browns, the Charlie Coles, Ramsey, Garner, you know, guys like that were at Tennessee that we could have these conversations with. I've had this conversation with Coach Cutcliffe several times when I was a student. But imagine being that guy or that kid that has nobody to talk to. What do they do? This is what happens when you're trying to learn on your own and you see somebody bust out a window. 9 out of 10 kids gonna do the same thing. But you know, if you got a dad at home, you know different outlets. I've been very controlled on Twitter simply because I'm as angry. I hadn't slept in 4 days. I'm as worried about as anybody else. I'm as angry as anybody else. But I know I've seen both sides, and I understand that the negativity is probably going to take away from people that want to help or want to get involved, and that's what they'll focus on. That's why I want to continue to just focus on positive things and reach the community where we need to reach them, and that's basically the youth, man. I really believe I've been that frustrated youth in a city that's ready to explode. and I got my opportunity because I could run a football. Had I not ran that football, I would be the same way, probably with people I grew up with doing the same thing. So I just ask people not to judge those people. They are wrong. Don't get me wrong. I will 100% say what they're doing is wrong if you're committing crimes and committing violence. But I'm like JK. That may be the only thing that gets some people attention. I'm sorry to say it, but I think that's the truth. And that's just it. It is what it is as far as that for me. I just see both sides of both sides of the coin. But I'm not advocating for violence. I'm not advocating for looting and stealing. But I do see how you could be so frustrated that you just explode.
That's a great perspective.
Thank you. All right, so I want to move on to this because I think this one is very important to who we've become as men. As far as teammates, been at the University of Tennessee, and I'll go first on this one. What I've learned about race and interacting with different types of people who come from all different types of backgrounds. I think the military and professional college sports, high school sports, that's the one place I think people pretty much could care less. I always tell people if Trey Teague or Brad Lampley can open up that hole for me that I can run through, I don't care if they're blue, purple, green, whatever, where they come from, what city, when you put that jersey on, we all roll together. And I think back to my freshman class in 1991 that Tom was a part of. We probably were about half and half, black and white. That's Heath Schuler, Tom Hutton, Bexford, Jason Lehman, Jeff Smith, Trey Peterson. Like, there were so many whites in our class and there were so many blacks. And we all lived on the fourth floor just like you guys, and we never had any problems. But I'm not here to say that, things didn't happen at Tennessee that was racial. What I will say is I thought Coach Former always did a good job of understanding that we all were different, but also being intentional that we never got to be a segregated team. And maybe it changed for you guys, but when I was there, he would get on the bus and say, hey, let's mix this up. All the black guys can't be on the bus, on one bus, and all the white guys on another bus. I can remember being in the cafeteria in Gibbs, and Coach Former would kind of break everybody up and make you get out of your groups. I don't want to share anything that happened on the field, but I can remember some fights on the field, and if they took a racial tone, he was the first to step in and go off on everybody. Black, white, it didn't matter, where you were from. So I take that, being around men like him, being around men like David Cutcliffe, Kippy Brown. I saw how Kippy Brown interacted with whites, and he could go anywhere and be anybody, but he was still a real brother. I never thought he was a fake brother, but I thought he could operate. He could go talk to the janitors, or he could go talk to Doug Dickey, who was the AD, at that time, and represent himself well. And I tried to follow that pattern in life, and realize that there's bad people in every race. There's great people in every race. And I've been fortunate to be friends with everybody that's on this screen right now. And you've impacted my life in different ways. And I have a lot of respect for you for different reasons. So that's been my experience, being a Vol and just learning how to deal with everybody. Because on our team, man, we had white guys who didn't have a pot to piss in. We had guys like me that were from the inner city that didn't have a pot to piss in. We had the Elaines of the world who grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth and, rolled up in a brand new Toyota 4Runner and wore a suit to class every day. So we had it all. We had Brent Gibson, who was from the projects, a white guy from the projects. So I learned, man, that we're all human beings and we all have a lot in common, man. I've hung with Jeff Smith and Bubba Miller as much as I've hung with Horace Morris and Corey Fleming. So I just think, I've learned in life that we have a lot more in common than we have against us. And especially when you have a love for one another and you want to win. And that's what I feel like we have to do. We have to just try to win as a nation and come together. So that's just my thoughts on that one.
Well, I'll go next. My experience with playing with you, Aaron, and everybody at Tennessee was, I can't say enough about it. And I came from a mostly white private prep school here in Memphis. And I played with a couple of black guys, but I didn't, and I didn't really see it until I got to Tennessee. When we were battling on the field, we were living together in the athletic dorm. There just was, that was the most special part of being involved to me, was because I was friends with not just the white guys, but all the black guys, like Aaron and, everybody. And this whole situation hurts me, and I'm so sorry for what y'all are going through, for Joey and Aaron and Jason. I hurt for y'all.
We appreciate it, brother.
I've always felt like so blessed to have been in that locker room environment, because when you pause and think, if I'd never been exposed, I don't know what I would be like, because I've heard people say things in groups, or make statements. I won't say jokes, or just and I don't mean that something where you're like, that's not cool. Just something where you can tell that they really have they've never left their little world, their little circle. And I just have always been like, man, I'm so glad that I got out. I'm so glad that I have friends that are from all over the country, that are from areas that are nothing like where I come from. And, we were able to eat together and, live together and gain like perspective. And, the main thing that I may be getting ahead, that it told me, really just to reinforce to my kids is, get to know everybody you come in contact with. Like, don't ever judge them based on obviously the way they look, or where they come from, or what they do for a living, or if they have or they don't have. That's not important. What's important is what's inside, and what your meaningful relationships and friendships that last forever will come a lot of times from places that you never would have thought about when you were 10 years old and living in your little bubble. And, I just feel fortunate that I was able to travel and meet so many different people, because I feel like I grew from listening to their experiences, and it's still something I'm continuing to try to do. Because this is not getting any better unless we all care. I mean, this police stuff goes on. I mean, we've seen those videos, and it's happened before, and it happens to people of other color, and I don't know. I'm sure I don't know where those videos are, but the police brutality, I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but it's going to take people coming together to try to address it, and I don't know if, I don't think peaceful protesting is going to help. Honestly, I don't think tearing stuff up is going to help, but I think you can piggyback on the back of all this attention. And, and I don't know if it goes through a legislative manner, or if it just goes from people that are recognizable speaking out and being heard. But right now, Twitter's so negative, and there's so much pain on there, and so many people are on there, I think, just trying to divide. And there's some good in there. You got to look pretty hard, but now the last thing we need to do now is to divide. We need to address this big issue first, and then we can talk about groups that are coming in and inciting riot, whatever. That's a separate issue. It doesn't have anything to do with this. That's I know half those people that are tearing stuff up, probably that's what they do. They probably riot is what they do, and that has nothing to do with what this issue is. So.
Well said, brother.
Aaron, my background is probably right on point, similar to Tom's. I mean, we both went to all boys schools, predominantly white, like 95% white. The black guys were on the team with us, sort of thing. And so when you ask how much of your racial understanding came out of the dynamic of the UT locker room, I would say 110%. I mean, that's what formed everything I think about. And I'm all like Trey from the standpoint that I'm so grateful to have had that experience, have been in the locker room and gain the understanding and the perspective and understand how different a lot of you guys had to come up, from the family dynamics to the educational dynamics. And my takeaway from all that was, I think, really a couple things. Number one, just pure respect or how a lot of guys were able to overcome a lot of stuff to become just really good men. There were a lot of opportunities, frankly, to kind of, go off on the wrong trail, but yet so many guys that I know, they're good friends of mine, a lot of you guys on this call, just turn into good men, solid men, husbands and fathers and so forth. And I respect that 1,000 times more than I respect somebody with my background that ends up having a similar outcome, because I know it's just been tough. There's been more things that have made it more difficult. And so I respect that. I think, the other thing is that it's done for me is it's made, we may disagree on politics, whatever, right? But I think what I do is often when I see things, again, like the video, again, like the protests, that experience in that locker room has made me look through the lens that you guys would have. I mean, I can't ever have that experience, but the point is, it often makes me think about how you guys would view it. And so I think that perspective has helped me immeasurably. I use it every day. I mean, I'm like Trey and Tom. I'm blessed to have been in that locker room in that setting, and frankly count as friends, guys like you that I've got understanding that background is way different than mine, and I respect the hell out of that.
Thanks. What's up, little bro? Swain?
I was just sitting here thinking, I'm from the same neighborhood as Joey. I mean, I can literally walk from my house to Joey's house where he's from. And I went to a school where it was all black, and got myself in some trouble and was told I couldn't go back to that school, and literally had to go across town to all white school. There was like 97% white. And so I've kind of seen both sides of it. I think it's prepared me for the University of Tennessee to be able to work with those that was not the same color as me. People, I know I ask you guys this all the time, but ask me, do you miss football? Do you miss football? My answer is hell no, I miss football. I don't miss the pain and, the beat down of playing. But the one thing that we do miss, and one thing I do miss, is those relationships and being in that locker room with your brothers and, sitting down and learning about somebody's story and kind of what drives them, what motivates them, what's their reason why, what pushes them when they're tired, what pushes them when they're hurt, what pushes them when they don't feel like it. That's what I miss. I miss those relationships. And so I've never experienced one thing racial at the University of Tennessee during my time. Here and there we had a teammate that, was being kind of picked on by a police officer, but I never experienced anything really bad. If anything, I was speeding and I got off because I played at Tennessee. to be honest, now
same here.
Yeah, but I've experienced, within the last year getting pulled over here, and one cop was good, one cop was bad. I think one cop knew who I was, and the other cop didn't, because he was getting ready to go in, and was threatening and doing all these things for no reason. But man, I'm just, like I said before, I'm proud of Tennessee for the stance that they've taken so far. Their words, I do understand that, but they've done more than what other schools have done, and I know that, our players on our football team, in previous years, Jalen Reeves-Maven, they've been kind of vocal, and our school have allowed guys like that to be vocal and speak their mind. I know Prue has done that too. So I just, it's about the relationships. And white, black, doesn't matter. We've had Simone on our football team. That's just been the one place where, I felt like I had an extended family. And now everyone's off doing their own thing and living life and raising their family, and I miss those guys, man. I really, really, really do. So I'm glad to be a part of the call. I've always heard about Brad Lampley, never met him officially. Trey and I talked here and there, never met officially, and I just appreciate being part of the call.
Yeah, I appreciate your brothers, man, and I've had so many black and white former Vols that I've connected with over the last 3 days that, man, I was broken, you know what I mean, and just hearing guys' voices and saying let's keep moving and talking about silly things, Jay, Mose, Phillips, they're always silly, so they're sending me silly videos about things we shouldn't be laughing at, but it's at the right time, man. And that's how it's always been with us, man. You know, from breaking my leg and you know, guys coming over to the house and to the hospital to see you. You know, it wasn't black or white. It was my teammates and my coaches and you know, everything that's happened. You know, it's been somebody that I was in that locker room with that made a call to me that picked me up, man. And that's what I wanted to do with this is just give our perspective. We all share a love of one thing, and that, you know, that's Tennessee. But we've learned and took so much from it that I think addresses a lot of, you know, our perspectives and, you know, what's happening, the events that is happening right now. So the last thing I'll ask you guys is just, you know, what are you saying to your families based on everything we just talked about? Like, what's your message? What's your message been to your family, your kids, or coaches, you know, kids that you coach or nieces and nephews, people that you interact with? What are you saying to those to your family and your kids and people you have a relationship with right now?
Aaron, that's a complex question. Had a conversation with my kids. I have a 14-year-old son, soon to be 14-year-old son, 16-year-old daughter. We were down in Santa Rosa Beach this past week. Got there on Monday, left yesterday. I'm not sure if you guys have ever been down there.
38.
So the time I was down there, we saw a total of 6 black people. 6 from Monday to Saturday, right?
Yep.
And so we rented a house. It was in this neighborhood. And so we went down there with another family. They have teenage kids too. And so in the evening time, they like to, you know, to ride their bikes after they got back from the beach and all that good stuff. But they always want to go out later. Like, you know, it started off at 6, then it, you know, 7, then eventually it turned into like 8:30. And it just hit me after the second day. I had to tell them, like, hey, this might not be the best thing for you. And I had to explain why. And the funny thing about it, I guess it's not funny, they understood. I mean, they knew the story about Ahmaud Arbery, what happened to him. And it's crazy, you know, this is not the 1960s, 65. This is 2020. I have to have that conversation about them being in a all-white neighborhood and riding bikes or walking. Think about that. It broke my heart, man. It broke my heart having that conversation. But I guess it broke my heart even more that they understood. What do you say? I mean, what?
Hey, I'm in the same place, brother.
What do you say? What do you say?
The only thing you can do is be real, man, because they're going to face the realness. Like, we don't have a choice but to address those things at a very early age with our families, with our kids and young people that we interact with. It's just it's hard, man, that you have to toughen these kids up at such a young age. I've been in your same situation where we've been in watercolor and we're the only black couple on the beach, and then somebody might see this power tee and start up a conversation with me. But I think I've been so numb to it, man, that it slapped me in the face this week because, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, I'm that brother that made it, you know, and I almost started to believe that up until the last, you know, recent events that, hey, man, at the end of the day, you know, you still a black man in America, you know. Now, I'm not one to let it get me down. It's got me down now, but, you know, I'll bounce back because I've been dealing with that for 47 years. But, you know, I'm like you, man, when you're in those situations and you say it to your kids and you want to give them the life that you didn't have, but at the same time, they get the life that you had just because of the color of their skin. So, you know, that's just my thoughts on it. I continue to be real, man, and I'll be quiet, but I hate that we have to do that. But I'm always just very honest with my kids because that's their reality.
You know, for me, I got all girls. I got 3 girls. My oldest just turned 12 yesterday, and so, you know, one thing that we've been talking about is you know, just embracing that you have to outwork people, and I've had to just share with her, like, you got to be better than maybe someone that has a different skin tone to you. You're going to have to be 50%, 100% better. And, she was like, why? And I've had to kind of explain to her why. Because throughout history, the Black woman has been the most disrespected. And here I'm raising three queens. And so the paranoia is, something I deal with. When daddy has to leave the house, worrying if it's going to be the last time they see me. My dad was murdered when I was 9 years old. And so the case is still unsolved. Don't know who did it, but my kids know that. And they understand that fuels me to be the best father I could be. That's the good part of telling them that. The bad part of that is that they don't want to be like me. They don't want to be a fatherless child. And so, I try to be honest with them at the same time, but you try to shield them from things. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to be like we were when we were their age, when we didn't really understand racism like that. We didn't understand it truly until we got older and we started experiencing it. 11, 12 years old, you're not really supposed to understand it fully like they understand it right now, which, like Joey was saying, that's a problem in itself. But yeah, the conversations I think have been hard, especially for fathers of black boys. But, for me with daughters, what if in 10 years my daughter is married and her husband is driving down the road and gets stopped and boom, something happens. So, she's going to be affected at some point. She's going to have a son. So, yeah, those conversations with the kids have been extremely difficult. Just because they can see it. They can see the video. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, they couldn't see those things. And now they can just log on to the laptop, log on to the computer, phone. They can see the same things that we see. They can see the murders right there in front of them. And you're forced to have a conversation with them that you're probably not ready for. So those conversations have been tough for sure.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think the thing for me has just been, making my kids understand, just have awareness about it, and I think to me it also underscores you just don't always make sure you stand up for what's right. You know what I mean? And understand that there's people, this perspective that when you get into your truck and you drive to Knoxville, there are certain things that you don't have to worry about that a lot of your teammates do have to worry about. And that's just generally, it's not specific to Tennessee or anything else, but that's just generally speaking. And so always be mindful of that. And, if I think that the conversation I'm having with Jackson is that you see a teammate in a tough spot now, you know what I mean? And, but I think the thing that impressed upon me the most is I've just had so much trouble, like I said at the beginning, reconciling the fact that it just keeps happening. And it's been so troubling. And so Aaron, that's why I texted you yesterday morning. You and your social media stance and everything you've said has been so spot on that in a way, I told my wife this morning, you've really kind of been my moral compass through all this, whether you know it and want that burn or not, but I mean, that's kind of the way it's been. And so I just appreciate your leadership because it's helped me. It's given me perspective. I think it's given a lot of people that follow you on Twitter perspective, kind of on just an understanding about how you see things, and it's entirely different, and it's been spot on. So I don't know. I appreciate your leadership more than anything else.
Oh man, I appreciate each and every one of you guys, man. And it's just my way of coping. I'm one of those. I let things. Joy and them probably know this. I let things build up and then I explode. And so I've just been trying to be constant and calculated at the same time, because I think, we could say the wrong thing, and that's why I didn't want to cover politics here or religion or anything like that, because that's not going to bring any positivity to this. But I think the perspectives that we've shown here, I've learned some things that I didn't know about some of you guys just in this call that we've had here. And I think that's what it's about, man. It's about perspective. We all having the same common goal, which is this ain't right. I think we all agree on that. We all agree with what happened in Minnesota to Floyd. We all are in agreement on that. We're all in agreement that things are happening in this country that none of us, there's people on one side and on another side that this is exactly how they want it. And I think, going forward, we have to do things like this and use our platforms to make sure that those people in the middle, I really believe most of the country is in somewhere in the middle. You may be leaning one way or the other. And times, I know me, I jump over there. I'm not going to lie. But then, my experiences with you guys, my teammates, make me say, hey, man, I know Tom Hutton's heart. I know Trey Teague's heart. I know Brad Lampley's heart. So, although we're different, I know their heart. I can't put them in one bucket. Just like, that would be for me as a black person saying that everybody see a big black man jogging around our neighborhood, that he up to no good. If I'm doing that, then how can I be mad that somebody does that? It happens, but, how can I be mad? So, I tend to, me and Joy have talked about this before. I tend to sit on the fence about a lot of stuff just because of the way I was growing up, the way I grew up and what my experiences in life have been. So, I teeter-totter a lot, and you'll probably see that on Twitter, on Twitter a lot too, that, I just have a different perspective. And hopefully, as we put this video out, people can understand that, that we're different because, that's the last thing that I will close with is, what can we do? I think something that Trey said earlier kind of stuck with me is you just have to, really approach people when they do the little things that are racist to kind of get away with it. You got to how to speak up on it. And I'm going to do that. I lost a lot of Twitter followers just because people are uncomfortable with some of the things that I was saying when I actually thought I was taking a positive approach to everything and purposely. But I had, a lot of people don't want to hear it. A lot of people want to sit on the sidelines. And, I was proud of Chase. Chase sent out something just saying, hey, if you follow me, if you've been with me, if you consider yourself a friend and you ain't got nothing to say about this, basically please unfollow me. And I was proud that because I do think I think our impact on the youth in changing the systemic racism and socioeconomics in America, I think everything boils down to that. As somebody that comes from nothing, I think everything comes down to socioeconomics and your environment. And when your environment is changed because you get to leave the inner city of Detroit and go to Knoxville, that changed the way my whole trajectory in life went. And if I wasn't able to run that football, I really believe, I'm another statistic because I can give example after example of people I grew up with. Now I got some people that's doing well, just like me, but it was normally an athletic avenue that took us out of, our situation. So that's just my thing with what can we do? I think we can just continue to be positive, continue to be very vocal, call out BS. I think Swain does that. It's about as balanced as somebody can do in his industry. I think he's as real as you can be. I think he's as flexible and versatile as you can be, on subjects. He'll bring in other people to, give different perspectives. And that's what I was trying to do and what I'll continue to try to do. And then the last thing for me is just coaching. I'll continue to just try to reach out to African Americans and, white kids who don't have that male, father there, or the rich kids at Christian Brothers that don't know this perspective. I try to give it to them because they're not going to get it. A lot of times they may not get it at home. So, that's my thing. And I just love to hear what you guys plan on doing or what your contribution to fixing this thing is.
I think for me, just having these conversations, right? This is great, but we can't confine this to this Zoom call. We have to continue to have conversations with friends that, don't look like us, friends that are like us. Just have conversations, get different people's perspective on what they think and what they're going to do going forward. Be an example in your own community. Be an example in your own neighborhood. it's a, now we've talked about this being a complex issue, and it's not gonna be over tomorrow. It's not gonna be over next week. This is something that's gonna take a little time, but it starts here. It starts with yourself, right? And getting a perspective from other friends, other family members, and see where we can push this, man. And I appreciate you guys allowing me on this call, because I respect every one of you. And like Aaron said, I've learned something from this call. That, you know, obviously everybody is the same. Everybody has a different way of maybe, you know, expressing themselves, you know. But it's one of those deals, man. But if you stay on the sideline on this one, this is one where everybody is kind of looking at us, looking at, you know, everybody like, hey, this is our time to come on and express yourself and try to make a change for this country. And obviously it just starts in your community, though.
Thank you.
You know, like playing football, you know, you're number one on the depth chart, or you're number two in depth chart. I know, Aaron, you've always been number one on the depth chart, so you probably wouldn't understand this part. But
no, I was the backup. I just balled in big games.
But when the guy in front of you gets hurt, you know, you're called, like your number is called, and you got to go. And I just feel like this moment, it's not just the starter's job to go in there and play. You know, white folks, everybody, like, your number is being called. Like, we all got to get up off the sideline, lock arms, and do it together. And that's kind of what I've been sitting back, not talking as much, but kind of seeing, okay, my white friends, y'all mad like I'm mad? You know, that's what I want to see. And, you know, my black friends, you know, I don't want to see us put every white person in the same boat, be angry and think that every white person is racist. I think conversations like this need to continue. I think it's very, very important that we listen to understand rather than always listening to respond. I think sometimes we do that in the social media era, where we just can't wait to push sin on our side without really listening and understanding what the other person is feeling and talking about. But I think this is it, man. This is the first string guy getting hurt, and it's time for everybody to get up off the sideline and get in the game together. Because it may not be someone close to you that passed away, or someone close to you that's being discriminated against. But at some point, it's going to affect you at some point. And so if it hasn't now, it's going to. So I just think this is a battle that we all need to lock arms and fight it together. And it's going to take conversations like this. It's going to take calling out and holding ourselves accountable, and people on our side accountable. You know, there's black folks who are racist. And my great uncle raised me. He's 91 years old. Okay, he's from Tupelo, Mississippi. Lived in Jasper, Alabama. Was married to a white woman before he went to World War II. Came back without a wife. Was divorced because my wife's side was like, no, there's no way. And so, but it takes on both sides for us to hold each other accountable. So, you know, Brad, Trey, Tom, you hear somebody, you know, making a joke or saying something, one of your white friends, then you need to say, no, that's not right. That's not the person I know when I played Tennessee, the Aaron Haytons, the Joey Kents, you know, black guys I play with are not like that. And then on our side, guys, Joey and Aaron, we need to do the same thing. When you have, you know, someone that's black and spewing, you know, BS, we need to call them out and hold them accountable too. I think that's what it's gonna take, man. Same thing in the locker room with culture. You know, you get the guys who are older, who are leaders, with skin in the game. Someone's lazy, they call them out. They set them straight. I think that's something we have to do with this as well.
You know, Jason, you kind of stole my thunder, because I had a neighbor of mine today. I was talking to him, and he's a lot like me from the standpoint he went to UT, fraternity guy. You know, some of us probably know him, and we were talking, and he said he is just so troubled by all this. But he said at the same time, I don't know what to say. Do I say anything on Facebook? Say something on Twitter? It's just so far out of my swim lane, and I haven't had that experience my whole life. What do I do? What do I say? And so I guess, you know, Jason, I'd love to hear all you guys' perspective, you and Aaron and Joey, about like what can Trey and Tom and I and guys like us do to help.
Obviously, I have a lot of friends, on Twitter from all over, and I've seen a lot of people, making comments like your silence, says a lot, not specifically just to me, but and obviously it's easy for me to just text and say, hey, I love you, or but as far as I think I've composed I don't know how many tweets, and I didn't feel like they were sufficient. I don't know exactly how to sympathize with something without really understanding what it would be like if it was, I don't know.
I feel you, man.
You're so careful that you want to say the right thing and you want people to know how you feel, but that's not an excuse not to say anything, obviously. But sometimes it's just, you think like by talking to your friends and having these that you'll be able to formulate, a better way to say it coming from my perspective, which is respectful, but lets people know that like I care, I'm not okay with the things, it's
The crazy part about that, Trey, is, it's old saying, it's not true unless you post it, right? But I know your heart, right? You know what I mean? You don't, I get what you're saying, Trey, I do. And I get what you're saying, Brad, you're asking what should you say or how should you say it? Be comfortable in whatever you do, right? If you want to post something, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. Having a conversation like this, going out talking to your neighbor, going out talking to somebody that you're not comfortable talking to and expressing to them, that's fine too. It just depends on how you want to handle this, man. And I don't want to put pressure on people to respond just because they feel like they need to say something on Twitter or on Facebook, because sometimes that won't be real. They're just doing it because you feel like you're feeling pressure that you have to do it. You just have to be a good person, right? And spread that positivity. And if you want to post something, that's great. If you don't, that's your prerogative not to. Everybody, even me, it took me 3 or 4 days to post something, not because I was scared to post something or I was afraid of the backlash. It just took me some time to wrap my head around it. And I just posted something about talking to my kids. And that was just on my heart, right? At the time. Do whatever's on your heart, bro. There's no pressure from me. Do what's
I would say I'm the same way, man. Do what's on your heart. Do what's natural. We know your heart. I think, as we share this video, that, people will understand, where we're coming from and hopefully see all our hearts. But, there's going to be some of our teammates and some people that have something to say about what we did here, as blacks. Joey and Swain and Aaron didn't go hard enough. And you guys didn't come hard enough, or maybe you guys get some that say you were too sympathetic for the situation. So, it is what it is, man. Just like we judged when we got that orange and white on, well, it ain't never enough. You rush for 200 yards, you should have got 300. If you catch 10 balls, you should have caught 12. So, it is, man. We've been doing it our whole lives. I'm to the point, y'all know me, I don't even care. Like, it is what it is. You're going to get what you get with Aaron, and Aaron going to sleep well at night. That's just the way it is. I do think we need to do this with some other vows. I think there's a lot more people out there that have perspectives, and I'd love to hear from them. So I don't know who y'all think we could pass this along to, but that was kind of what I thought. Maybe Joey, we can get Dante Stallworth or a group. We don't want to get too militant of brothers because it could get ugly. No, I'm just playing. But I'm just thinking, hey man, let's hear from our boys, man, our VFL. So anybody got anybody that y'all could think we could? Because I plan on posting this and then challenging somebody to have another one next Sunday.
Challenge Ramon. I almost texted Ramon today to ask him to do it. Ramon's great at that. He's another guy that I just put so much stock in his point of view.
Jeff Coleman should be on one of these.
Yep.
Okay. So we got 3. We got, that's 4 that we gonna send it to. Y'all got 2 more out there. We'll put the pressure on, put that peer pressure on them.
Jalen Reeves Bateman is young guy. Just
Jalen Reeves.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to get some of these young the players that are playing now, somehow let them know that we're coming together and we're supporting one another, and they should do the same thing. And I don't know how you do that. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I think it's important for the current team to love on each other.
Amen.
I agree. Well, thank you guys, man. Let's think about who will get out. If you mention somebody's name, please reach out to them. But I think it needs to be a diverse group, man. Once again, I think if it gets too big on one call, then you don't get everybody's perspective. But I would like to see it with 3 blacks and 3 whites that can give different perspectives and maybe we can make some change, man. But I have the utmost respect for you guys, whether we were doing this call or not. I've had some conversations with each one of you that have touched my life and changed the way that I think about whatever we were talking about, whether it was the AD or the head coach or players on the team when things happen. We've gotten pretty deep, man. So I thank you guys for jumping on it, and I was so proud because I was kind of down when I got Lamp's text, and it picked me up. And then when I had this thought, God put this on my heart. I texted you guys, and man, you got back to me, within 15 seconds, like, hey, let's do it. I'm available. So, I thank you guys. My hope is that there's some good comes out of this. It catches on like wildfire, and all of our VFL teammates are doing this, and maybe we can inspire the rest of the country as we, as Vols, we normally take the lead. So, like Swain said, we had the first black quarterback in the SEC, and maybe we can, spark a change. So, man, I appreciate all you guys and your perspective. I love each one of you guys. I wish nothing but good for all your families. I don't care if you're black, white, or purple, man. You guys are good people, and I appreciate you. Thank you for your time, and let's see if we can get this going, man. We can spark a fire, and I thank you for your time.
Yep.
Lead with your heart. Can't go wrong.
Right.
All right, go Vols.
Right.
Love you guys.
Hey, by the way,
y'all,
hey, Aaron, by the way, I love the way you say it. It sounds like you're saying go Vows. So I love that, man. That's old.
Hey, I'm still from up north, man. I haven't changed my dialect.
There's no O in there. It's an A in there somewhere.
A to W.
L. I mean, it's a couple of
GBO.
S's in there.
GBO then. I'll go with that. Hey, man, I love y'all, brothers.
All right, man.